It's Halloween. We're gonna have a good time tonight.
Michael Myers kills babysitters, not kids.
Ah! Jeremy!
See what he did to my sister? He killed her husband, and he stabbed her, took her voice. She cannot speak because of you.
Now, some kids you can tell they're a pain in the ass, but Corey was a good kid. I just couldn't imagine he'd be capable of hurting anyone on purpose.
You go right now! Get out of my house!
There's the evil that exists as an external force that threatens the well-being of the tribe. Survival depends on understanding and awareness, fear. The events of Haddonfield that created so much violence and bloodshed finally had resolve.
Hello, this is PJ Souls from Halloween and Innocent Prey and Carrie and totally a lot of other movies. And you are listening to The Hysteria Continues.
And indeed you are. Welcome back to episode 270 of The Hysteria Continues. And we are in the Halloween mood because, of course, as everyone knows, Halloween has ended. This isn't a drunk cast. Whether it should have been a drunk cast remains to be seen. But we will be dissecting and poring over the bloody corpse of Michael Myers. Or is that spoiler? We will be doing spoilers in this episode, so take heed. But we are joined by a friend of the podcast, Joshua Grattan, joining us once again. Joshua, what was the last episode you were on? Can you remember? Remind us.
Oh, I was only on the Halloween Kills episode.
Ah, okay. Well, there you go. It's a perfect symmetry then. So welcome back to Haddonfield via The Hysteria Continues. So we're going to be talking about the closing of the trilogy, the David Gordon Green trilogy, Halloween Ends, which is currently at cinemas as we're recording. For how long remains to be seen. And we're just about to get to All Hallows Eve 2022. So, Joshua, are you feeling spooky?
I have a question on my mind, actually. Suicide or cherry blossoms?
Well, is that before or after watching Halloween Ends?
After.
Okay. Let's maybe we don't want any spoilers too much about what we thought of it. Although I've done a little review on Hysteria Lives already, so the black cat is out the bag as far as I'm concerned. Although I did rewatch it this evening with my beloved to sort of get a fresh view on it. So, looking forward to talking about that. But it's good to have you back on the show, Joshua. And who knows, you may be back for Halloween, The Ghost of Michael Myers in a couple of years' time, perhaps.
Or H60.
H60, yes. So, we'll be getting onto Halloween Ends fairly shortly. But, Erik, are you feeling spooky?
No, 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 no.
No.
Well, okay. Well, fair enough. Well, Nathan, if you found yourself down a dark tunnel underneath Haddonfield, would you let Michael Myers enter you?
Yeah. Trollop. You absolute trollop.
What a trollop. I think I've seen that video online.
He probably just doesn't feel like arguing with your double entendres anymore.
I'll still argue with him. I just didn't have a good comeback.
I bet you didn't. Dirty trollop. Joseph, are you going to be hollowing out pumpkin this year?
If I don't get over this goddamn head cold, I'm not.
Yes. Well, you sound all right, actually. You don't sound too bad.
I sound a little better than I did. I've been dealing with this for like almost 2 weeks now, and it's just like, it will not go away.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, enough sympathy for Joseph.
Your empathy is with me, Justin.
It is. I can feel. My heart is bulging, amongst other things. But Joshua, what? Oh no, it's going to be a filthy episode. I can tell. I haven't had a drink actually. I did go to an impromptu birthday party earlier, and everyone had a glass of wine except me. If you can believe that, and it's true.
No, it's not.
It is true, honestly.
It's not true.
It is true.
Yeah, let me just type that up on my invisible typewriter.
Well, that's if you can hear them singing outside there. They're having a French birthday, which sounds rude, but it's not. It's actually French people having a birthday. But before it gets too kind of delirious, Joshua, are you going to tell us what you've seen recently? Anything you want to tell us about?
Yeah, I watched the Clint Eastwood, I guess you'd call it a thriller, Tightrope from 1984. And I gotta ask, is it sort of a slasher? Like, I don't like throwing that term too much around, but like, I mean, I feel like it's more of one than like Fear City or Windows. It's not quite up to Cruising or 10 to Midnight, but like, I just noticed there were a lot of similarities between the slasher film, and I don't want to pigeonhole that in there, but I just noticed it was very slashery at times. Have you guys seen that one?
I haven't, no.
Yeah, it's been a while, but yeah, it definitely, I mean, obviously, like films like Play Misty for me definitely had that kind of proto-slasher leaning to it. And I think Tightrope you're talking about, isn't it? It definitely, I think it borrowed quite a few tricks from the toy box. Have you seen it, Joseph?
Yes, I love Tightrope. I never really considered it to be a slasher, but when Joshua was talking about it on the forums a little while back, I started remembering scenes, and I was like, yeah, this could be a slasher, possibly something we cover.
Yeah, well, why not? That sounds good. What about you, Nathan? Have you seen it?
Oh, no, I have not seen it. I would like to, but I don't know why I haven't watched it yet. It's very weird.
Yeah, well, I think Joseph said it could be one that we could pick for the main show at some point. So, I mean, what did you think of it, Joshua? Was it a first-time watch for you?
Yeah, it was a first-time watch, and I didn't know what to expect. And kind of with Cruising, I went in expecting just a thriller, and I was surprised at all the elements. And I thought Clint Eastwood, it was one of his best performances. So I was shocked that it wasn't a more well-regarded film in overall circles. I was floored. I was like, that's one of the best performances I've ever seen, because he said so much with just like a look of his eyes, or like just walking into frame. I couldn't believe like how good of a performance he gave, and the overall film was pretty involving too. So yeah, thumbs up. I also watched the new Hellraiser.
Okay,
easily one of the better in the series, but that's not saying much. At the end, I just sort of felt it was a bit forgettable. I liked the new Cenobites, and I liked how they added more of the Lament story into it, but yeah, it was okay. It was all right.
Well, it's kind of interesting, isn't it? Because I haven't seen it yet, but obviously we're talking about a legacy sequel, and we're going to be talking about another legacy sequel coming up. So there is that discussion about how you can keep a film feeling fresh, but also do enough to satisfy the kind of audience expectations. So did you feel like the Hellraiser, it's not a remake, is it? Is it sequel, or is it a kind of a, what is it? Is it a reimagining, or is it how they're trying to paint it?
It could be considered like a sequel, or like, how like the Friday 13th remake is like, it's not really a remake. It is, but it could be a sequel if you wanted to look at it that way. That's how I sort of see it as.
Yeah, to me it played more as a sequel, really, because it feels like one of those, because every Hellraiser after part 3 was kind of a standalone film, and this is what this one feels like, another standalone film. So a sequel, I would call it, almost.
Okay, because I remember you mentioned it on the last show, didn't you, Erik? I think
I did. Yeah, I quite liked it as well.
Yeah, isn't David Gordon Green? Isn't he directing the Hellraiser TV series?
It's Exorcist movies he's doing.
Yeah, but if you look at the thing, he's also doing a Hellraiser TV series.
Oh, is he?
I'm pretty sure when I looked up this, when I did my research, if you know what that is, Nathan.
What is that supposed to mean? Oh, that was shade of the highest order.
I know. As they said, as Sheriff Brackett once said, everyone deserves one good scare on Halloween, Nathan. So it was kind of a little scare.
You know how I would scare you, Justin? I'd serve you a martini with no olive. Don't say things you can't take back, Nathan.
Actually, Nathan, the olive is the least important bit of the martini. I think you'll find.
I'd serve you a glass full of olives and no drink.
Now that's kind of that's a tale for Halloween, all right.
No, David Gordon Green is an executive producer on the Hellraiser TV series. Yeah, I didn't even know there was a Hellraiser TV series on the horizon.
No, isn't he directing it as well? I thought when I looked up, he was directing it.
Oh yeah, he is. Yeah, as well as the Exorcist reboot or sequel, whatever it is.
A busy boy, and it remains to be seen as a good thing. But Joseph, what about you? Did you see the Hellraiser?
No, I'm not really interested enough in the original Hellraiser films to care, really, honestly. I like the first 2, maybe 3, but after that I just zone out.
Okay, well, fair enough. So, excellent. Well, thank you, Joshua. So, let's see what everyone else has been watching. Eric, how about you?
Just a couple of old ones. I got the real 3D Blu-ray of Final Destination 4, which is the one set at the racetrack. So I watched that in 3D the other night, and 3D is excellent. The film's not as good as I remembered it. I think it's probably the weakest of the Final Destination films, but the 3D is spectacular. Works really well. And the other one I watched, keeping in the spirit of the main topic of tonight's show, I watched Halloween 6 again, the producer's cut, just to get a Michael Myers, another Michael Myers dose, a more traditional, even though it is kind of a weird film, Michael Myers film. Yeah, it's all over the place and it's a mess, but it's kind of fun. I've kind of made peace with the mask in it as well. I think it's actually one of the better Michael Myers masks in the franchise. They completely go off the rails with it in H2O, which was the film after this. But yeah, so after watching Halloween Ends, I thought, okay, I need I don't need, but I'm in the mood to watch a more traditional Halloween slasher movie. So for some reason, I chose Halloween 6 because I hadn't watched it in a while. But I still think it's underappreciated. It's not a gem, obviously, and it's got some very stupid plot ideas, but I thought it was fun in retrospect. I hated it when it came out first.
Yeah, well, out of interest, I mean, do you prefer the producer's cut to the original?
I quite like the theatrical cut because there's more gore in it, and I'm still that kind of 16-year-old slasher fan at heart. And it has a crazier ending. Well, does it have a crazier ending? Both endings are really stupid. But the theatrical cut, I think it delivers more slasher goods. But the producer's cut makes a bit more sense.
Okay, well, interesting. I'd like to revisit that as well, because not jumping the gun on Halloween Ends, but it's not. It seems the reshooting the ending of slasher movies seems par for the course, doesn't it? Which I'm sure we'll cover as we go. But anything else?
No, that was it. Just some films for our top 3 of 2006, so I can't mention them just yet.
Great stuff. So thank you, Nathan. How about you?
Unfortunately, I haven't really been able to watch much outside of what we're, going to be covering coming up. But I do say that, and I'm not giving it away or anything, but you guys will love my next movie choice.
Yes. Well, we kind of already know what it is, but
we won't love it, Nathan. We already know.
Okay. Well, we'll wait with bated breath, heavy breathing until the end of the show, and then we'll find out what it is. But thank you, Nathan. Joseph, how about you?
I have not watched a single thing this week. Except TV, just stupid TV shows. So I have nothing to talk about.
Okay, well, fair enough. I haven't been. I never do that kind of 31 for 31, the October thing, because I tend to be, in the typical old horror movie goth-than type thing. It's every day's Halloween. So but I have caught up with a couple of things. One is the new Shudder found footage horror comedy Deadstream, which was actually quite a lot of fun. It's been quite divisive, unlike a certain movie you're going to be covering, but it's about an influencer, a YouTube star who does stunts, and he gets banned from YouTube and another live streaming channel for something. It doesn't, where he injures somebody, I think, but he challenges himself to go to a haunted house and stay the night, and he films himself inside there. And a lot of people have criticised it, saying the main character is really annoying, which he kind of is, but it's the kind of point. It's not as annoying. He's not as annoying as that. What was the one with it's that other one with the woman, really annoying woman in it?
Dashcam.
Yeah, Dashcam. He was much more. I found him much more entertaining than that. But he's got that kind of insanely preppy, kind of adrenaline junkie kind of YouTube personality type thing running through it, which may wear some people, and I obviously did. But it's kind of got some good old school gore effects, monster effects, and it kind of works. I think it's got a good balance between horror and comedy, which of course is often incredibly difficult to do. So it's another kind of original Shudder film streaming on Shudder, and Shudder seem to be doing pretty well with their kind of sort of internally produced horror output. So have any of you guys seen it?
No,
because I I was thinking of Joseph. I think you'd probably enjoy it, Joseph, because it's a found footage movie.
Yeah, I've heard about it, but God, man, I have such a backlog of movies that I should check out. So I will see this, but I just don't know when.
Yeah, well, no problem. And of course, the other one was.
Oh, and sorry, Justin, I just wanted to mention real quick. I tried to do that 31 days of Halloween this year, and I got about 7 days in, but unfortunately, I got hit with the flu. And yeah, it's just like you. I feel like I'm old and I can't do it anymore. Like every day's Halloween, so why should I do it for 31 days straight? But yeah, I just wanted to mention that.
No, absolutely. But and the other film, of course, I mentioned to you because obviously, Joseph, you're a big fan of the From Hell movies, and there's a new From Hell movie called Shattered, with the emphasis on shat, which is an incredibly bad but incredibly entertaining From Hell movie, basically of a kind of psycho teenage girl who kind of worms her way into a tech millionaire living in an isolated mansion in above a motel where John Malkovich watches people doing naked yoga through a telescope, and all manner of bad acting and blood and violence and COD suspense happens. So if you wanted to ever be back in the early 90s From Hell movies, and this is kind of like, it's got the main character, the woman, she's German, pretending to be American, and it just looks like she's reading lines off the back of other actors' heads. It is kind of all manner of bad movie, but if you're in the right mood and you've got a few beers inside you, then you could do worse than Shattered.
A few bears inside you?
Yeah, a few bears. No, I'm talking about one of your nights, Erik.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Well, so anyway.
Well, which is one thing I watched, Justin, I forgot to mention, was I watched Fall as well after you guys were discussing it in the last episode, and I loved it because it has that kind of 47 meters down and open water type of lo-fi vibe. Not that it's lo-fi, it's actually really sort of well made, but like Nathan, like I was watching it on the projector, and it's just all those vertigo scenes were really effective, I thought. I mean, I would have been clinging to that antenna, which sounds a bit rude as well, but
yeah, those scenes made my stomach hurt really badly.
Yeah, it was a big thumbs up for me. I really enjoyed the film.
Excellent. Well, that's what we've been watching recently, so batten down the hatches, light the jack-o'-lantern, get the Halloween candy, get your cats inside, because it's time for Halloween Ends. So Joseph, are you going to bring us in after, presumably it's a trailer you've got for us?
Well, it'll probably be a TV spot, but I don't know what we're going to play yet, but we'll play something.
It's Halloween. We're gonna have a good time tonight.
The boogeyman is coming. He's gonna get you. 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 He's gonna get you.
Please help me!
It's time to put the boogeyman to bed.
Gonna get you.
4 years after her last encounter with mass killer Michael Myers, Laurie Strode is living with her granddaughter and trying to finish her memoir. Myers hasn't been seen since, and Laurie finally decides to liberate herself from rage and fear and embrace life. However, when a young man stands accused of murdering a boy that he was babysitting, it ignites a cascade of violence and terror that forces Laurie to confront the evil she cannot control. Okay, so Halloween Ends. If I haven't made it perfectly clear in the last 12 years on the show, I don't have much of an emotional attachment to the Halloween series past that first film. The OG Part 2, we'll count that as well. I love that one. But I just find the various kind of alternate realities and retcons concerning the Laurie Strode character and even Michael Myers himself to be kind of cinematic hogwash. So going into Halloween Ends with the knowledge that someone actually decided to end the mythos entirely and conclusively, at least until the checks come due again, I was actually kind of intrigued to see how they do it. And first things first with Halloween Ends, I thought the first hour of the film felt more like a loose remake of John Carpenter's Christine, more so than another continuation of the Halloween franchise. I mean, you've got Corey Cunningham character who accidentally kills a little boy in the opening scene. And he's kind of standing in for Artie Cunningham. Notice the last names there. From Christine, both sort of these kind of, they're both kind of like repressed mama's boy geeks, and they find their true selves through a specific avatar. Artie had his Plymouth Fury, and Corey has his Michael Myers, and they both begin to kind of personify and manifest their own unique evils by way of removing their glasses and washing their greasy hair, and I don't know, kind of smoldering like James Dean until they've reached an insatiable thirst for murder. Even the cinematography, like there's one scene where Corey begins to dispatch those who've wronged him. It's a quartet of bullies. It really calls to mind the scene where Artie's bullies get their just desserts in Christine, down to this one girl who tries to outrun a truck, much in the same manner as Buddy Repperton trying to evade the old Plymouth Fury on that lone stretch of highway. And even her hair is nearly identical to Buddy Repperton's, save for the shade of it. And of course, this being, 2022, there are allusions to current social problems, like involuntary celibates, excusing their problems with hurting others. And then you get the static evil begetting more static evil, transference, victim blaming, etc. And I don't know. I've long thought the Laurie Strode storyline was played beyond repair and diluted through the years of like retcons and sloppy writing. So following this new character of Corey, for me, might have been a real gamble for most of the diehard Halloween fans. But for me, I found it really fascinating in what they were trying to say and do. And for the first hour, until Corey is, I guess, kind of transfixed by evil, I was really, really with the film. I mean, when Corey takes on the mantle of Michael Myers and they devolve back into let's be honest here, some really insane coincidences to kind of shoehorn Mikey back into the story, I kind of lost interest. I liked the build-up more than I did the incident, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I know we're reviewing a Halloween film, and it just so happens to be one that is the conclusion to that Laurie and Michael story, but I just didn't care. There was nothing new to show me that I haven't seen in this series before, concerning Laurie and Michael Myers. So when they got to the final 20 or 30 minutes of the movie, it just really felt like someone said to themselves, "Yeah, this new story idea that we've come up with is coming along nicely, but hey, we forgot about Laurie and Michael, so let's just shoehorn them back into the plot in the last 20 minutes." And I think that's the gist of Halloween Ends for me. I found the build-up with the Corey character to be really involving, if I'm honest, and the stuff with Laurie and Michael to be just, I don't know, old hat, and it was played to the brim. I mean, we've seen Laurie skirt close calls before, and we've seen Michael withstand some of the most brutal punishment known to man. And taking this in the sort of a new direction and dealing with the aftermath instead of incident, I don't know, I think it was the shot in the arm that the series kind of needed. Unfortunately, it just came on the close of a very long gestating rivalry, and the end result was just, I don't know, it felt like two different films that tried to blend together, but did so, kind of unsuccessfully. Like I said, once Corey and Michael essentially become one, the film more or less just lost me entirely. It really does feel like two films battling it out, and I guess there's a finality to the Laurie and Michael story here, sure. Though whether or not it's handled very well is certainly up for debate. For me, I don't know. That storyline ended a long time ago, and no amount of retconning will erase it from the back of my mind. So, like I said, I didn't really care one way or the other what happens to Laurie or Michael. So I don't know. Halloween Ends for me was one half of a calculated risk that rewards, fairly well, and the other half was just basically the same old shit. I want to recommend the half I like and provide a warning for the other half, and just finish my review by, I don't know, pleading with the viewers out there that Halloween Ends, don't buy into the hyperbole. It's neither terrible or good. It's just kind of there. I mean, like I said, it's not terrible. It's just maybe not a great Halloween entry for the diehards. Like I said, it's two films that don't necessarily coalesce with one another, and I honestly felt the same way with the previous film in this trilogy, though I think for me personally, this one had a deeper kind of hold on me than the kind of bloody swath of Halloween Kills. So, middle of the road for me. Joshua, you were with us for Halloween Kills. What are your thoughts on Halloween Ends?
So just like last year, I watched this movie twice, just like I did Kills. But with Kills, I had more or less the same experience, and I stumbled over my thoughts, if I recall correctly. This year, I reevaluated Ends like from my initial reaction. So first go around, I saw this final entry as sort of like a dud. So when I first walked in, it seemed like it was playing out as like My Pet Monster or like the Brenda episode from Night Gallery. It retcons a death from Kills, which Kills did too, but it was not a Myers attack, so I cared less when they did it. And I had many, many questions when it came to the writing. Like, I said, what the fuck, in theaters loudly a few times. So that's at least consistent with last year's viewing experience. I guess I'll give my thoughts on opening night. So the first time I saw this, I thought it handled its message with more grace than Kills, I suppose, about the infection and Haddonfield's dome of negativity than Kills' messy back and forth with the mob and jumping all over the place, or that hilarious slow-motion silent shouting to stop attacking the mental patient. But this time, it was more integrated into the whole story, and it gets even more into the way of it gets in the way of telling us what's happening from a plot standpoint. And the characters are like horribly inconsistent, or so I thought, as if we are missing 6 or 8 scenes rather than a line or two. Like rather than telling us things implicitly, it takes a very direct, explicit direction. And that's the major difference between like cultural reflection on this set of films versus ones that became classics before. You can only take psychoanalyzing spouted by the characters so long before you lose yourself in disbelief. The big questions first go around were, why is Allison so into Corey so fast? She just met him, and within the Halloween season, she's decided to move away with him. And she turns on her grandmother in the same manner other townspeople do, and Laurie is caught by Allison with a bloody knife over Corey at the end, and she just drives away. Like, and I get Laurie feels the same chill from spotting Corey as she did the first time Myers appeared at her house in the original, but it felt way too rushed. She switched on a dime and jumped on him for being evil quickly. And the bar tools table scene with the father, where we talk about seeing Corey on the street and his eyes were not the same, is just, it was too much. It feels like wonky. Everyone is asking themselves like whether this is a great movie online, or thinking outside the box, or if it's a big misfire. And when I saw that where there were 4 writers, I was like, I think I have my answer. Yeah, it's different, but like with Halloween Ends, is different necessarily better? Because I like Friday the 13th Part 5 because despite its difference, it's entertaining and it uses those differences to be entertaining, and it still uses the same structure as the first 4. And with Halloween 3, it uses the holiday to show us like the franchise, like what was supposed to be with the season, and it really enhances the season. Elm Street 2 has, like it changes Freddy's powers, but it makes the story like it progresses what it's trying to do. And I love Texas Chainsaw 3D, so I do like different things. So we dropped a lot of what Kills was doing with his old house, and he now lives in the sewer with a homeless man. Myers isn't a force of nature like last year. He's back to being an old man. He's got a bad back. He's heaving. He's defeated rather quickly by old Jane Lee Curtis, which then asks the question, is everything we were told in Kills meant to be character and narration flaws? And we had to figure that out for ourselves. And this final chapter is what we needed to dismiss that all. I don't know. It just seems to be, they don't really work as pieces of a trilogy. And I did get a pic, although I love Michael Myers when he's like stabbing that one guy. I stole this from a comment on Facebook, sorry, to the person I stole this from. But he's like stabbing that one guy in the sewer, and it feels like he's gaining experience and leveling up because he just stands up like he's satisfied, like he leveled up. The thing about Ends is that although I had issues with Kills and 2018, nothing is unnerving. And I thought parts of 18 and Kills were suspenseful and spooky despite their flaws, but nothing in this really gave me that feel of like being unsettled. And it leads me to something else. Kyle Richards is not confronting Michael in this at all, and that's such a shame. But we do get the cool dude on a motorcycle, so that's awesome. The Halloween 3 credits, obviously, they're fitting because it's sort of a new take on it. Yeah, those are my thoughts. I didn't really know what to think, and at one point I was convinced this was worse than Resurrection and Rob Zombie's first film. But then I rewatched it 3 days later, and it's not the worst Halloween film. I'll give it this. I think I was just blindsided. It's not as sloppy as I first thought. I think they thought about this longer. Like the pool table with the dad scene wasn't as funky as I remember, and his line about the town taking his pain and making it all his own. I thought that was like really intelligent. I thought they had a lot more focus this time around. The film doesn't create an innocent side because everybody's sort of like capable of being evil, and Corey has done bad, but it's also placing the blame on everybody else who bullied. So instead of saying there's good in everybody, it's going the other way and saying the residents of Haddonfield are all to blame for the way the town is after Myers. I thought that was kind of like a fresh take, and I think this series needed that. Laurie Strode, once again, I asked, why is she being blamed by the town? I haven't figured it out why so many people are so angry at her. I don't get that angle. If you notice, though, Michael's kills, so if you catch it, they're all like the first Halloween. He cuts a throat, he stabs someone multiple times in the chest, he breaks a neck, and he impales somebody up by their feet. So it's like they're all the same kills that he did in the original film. As a Halloween movie, I wish Laurie got a longer confrontation. It's a bit anticlimactic. It's over in like 10 or 15 minutes. But I think they do a good job of stabbing and crushing Myers at the end, so it sort of makes up for it. I like the bully squad because they feel very 80s with the mullet and the pastels and the boy jock. I wish there was more stalk and slash with them because their deaths span about 5 minutes. But we do get like a Roy Burns flame to the mouth, so that was kind of cool. Let's see. It's just... and another thing, like, sorry, I thought I was going to be concise, but now I'm sort of rambling. Laurie likes Halloween now, and Allison goes to Halloween parties, but it's only been 4 years since her mom's death. Like, it doesn't, the writing, like, you see, like, it mellowed out for me on the second viewing, but the first time it's so jarring. Like, the town went in a mob on a Halloween night the year before, and the following year they're celebrating Halloween again. It doesn't make any sense at all. For a trilogy, it's I don't know. I might rank this above Kills or below Kills. It's less forgettable than 2018, but I don't know. The film looks bland. Michael is there. I cared more about the progression, like Joseph said, about the progression of Corey's arc versus what they did with it at the end. That's my thoughts. 5 out of 10. It's okay. I'll probably grow on me. It's not the worst Halloween. People are giving it way too much hate.
Okay. Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention is that I think this is supposed to be set like 4 years into the future from Kills. But even having said that, she does kind of turn rather quickly, considering she couldn't get over Michael Myers for 40 years.
And he's still on the loose. That's the difference, is like the first time he was locked away for 40 years.
Yeah.
They know he's still alive. So why are you, like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I agree with that. Erik, what did you think of Halloween Ends?
Well, I'm the resident Halloween series flag waver. I like most of the series. This is the 13th installment of Halloween. I like them all, really, apart from the 2 Rob Zombie ones and Halloween 4 I don't like. But the rest of them I do. I like Joshua. I love Halloween 5. I like Halloween 6 has really grown me over the years. I love Halloween Resurrection. I think it's great fun. And I've enjoyed David Gordon Green's, is that his name? Yeah, have I got that right? Yeah, David Gordon Green's trilogy. I've enjoyed for the most part. Now, I did my best for both Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends to avoid spoilers. And I was pretty successful, really, because I did absorb a few things before watching this film that helped, really, because I knew that Jamie Lee Curtis had said this film was going to piss a few people off. And I'd heard the early reviews, which were all negative, and you guys said something as well on Messenger saying that you'd heard that Michael Myers is really an afterthought in the film. So I was armed with that kind of information. So forewarned is forearmed. So when I sat down, I had a certain expectation, not to expect the traditional slasher movie. So that kind of helped me. If I'd gone into this expecting a a Friday the 13th or like a Halloween 2 or something like that, I think I would have been quite disappointed and quite shocked. I thought the film was, overall I was entertained. I thought it was enjoyable. I thought it was a very strange film, as you said. For those reasons, like Laurie is suddenly into Halloween and she's really happy. Now, I did like the new happy Laurie. That's the kind of Laurie I think we should have been introduced to in 2018's film. It would have made more sense in the first film in the trilogy rather than now. But I did like seeing her smile and be happy, and I love that little exchange she has with the cop when they meet in the supermarket. I thought that was quite sweet, and I think it would have been easier to warm to Laurie in the 2018 film if she'd been like this at the start. It would make more sense if she was now in this third entry living in the countryside in a house that's doubles as a big trap for Michael Myers. But I mean, you have to cut some slack. It's a slasher sequel, so I let that slide. So I knew not to expect a lot of Michael Myers in this. I didn't know anything going into this film about this character, Corey Cunningham, so all that was brand new to me. Like you, Joseph, I got strong vibes of Christine off this. I think it was Joshua, you said that like the gang of bullies that are tormenting Corey, they reminded you of 80s throwbacks, and I got that vibe as well. It's like, God, that kid with the mullet, what the hell? Does he not realize it's 2022?
No, here's the thing, sorry to cut you off, but in my city, like I live in Vancouver, BC, there are guys that age who are actually wearing mullets, and people like the girl with the big hair, they're actually wearing that now, so it's actually...
Yeah,
it's back.
Teenagers now, yeah, the mullet is back with teenagers these days.
Okay, because particularly the girl I thought looked really out of time. I mean, the mullet I have seen sort of make a kind of a comeback, but I didn't know that sort of big hair was back. But yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting, the way that they are sort of 80s kind of caricatures. Yeah, so, I mean, I found lots to like in the film. There was part of me watching it going, I would love a really traditional, straightforward, scary slasher movie like they did with Halloween 2. No frills, just, very much back to basics. But I went with it as it went along. And like, I think a couple of us have watched it twice. So yeah, I did watch it a second time as well. And, I still stand by my opinion on this occasion that it's a pretty decent movie. I loved the Halloween 3 title font that they used for the opening credits, and also the CGI pumpkins that peel back to reveal another pumpkin underneath. I thought that was really well done. I love the credit sequences they've concocted for the David Gordon Green trilogy. Kyle Richards, yeah, like you were saying, Joshua, she's really underused in the film. I would love to have seen more of her character in this. I love when sort of old characters are brought back into franchises like this, but she's only in 2 or 3 scenes and she has nothing really to do. She's just a sounding board for Laurie, really. I do think the filmmakers are really brave to make a film so radically against the grain of what people would be expecting from this, particularly after Halloween Kills, which was kind of wall-to-wall mayhem and quite a video gamey sort of type movie. And yeah, that's another thing, is you said this, Joshua, as well, that Michael Myers has completely changed his persona as well in this one. In that one, he was like this, Street Fighter 2, Mortal Kombat type villain who was, he'd have all these cops coming at him from all angles and he'd be, slicing them up and killing them. And now all of a sudden he's this sort of weak, decrepit old man living in a sewer. It's just kind of a strange... just goes against everything they set up in Halloween Kills. I mean, the slasher mayhem that isn't there is quite good. I think I saw somewhere on the internet that Michael actually only kills 2 people in this film. The rest of them are all done by Corey. So this is his lowest body count of any of the Halloween movies. And the Christine thing, yeah, because when Jamie Lee Curtis makes a note of calling him Corey Cunningham at one point, and I was like, that has to have some significance. So I just remembered, oh yeah, Keith Gordon was Arnie Cunningham and Christine. I wonder if this is, I'm assuming this was a kind of a deliberate nod to Christine. The length of the film, 110 minutes. Do you know what? I didn't feel bored at all watching the film, so I'm going to say that it's a justified, it's an inflated running time for a slasher sequel, indeed. But you know, I think the elevated horror vogue that's going on at the moment has kind of influenced this film. But like Joshua, I don't think it's quite as intelligent as it sets out to be. But I mean, I do applaud the bravery of the filmmakers, as I said. I mean, they're really going out on a limb. And it's nice to see that David Gordon Green, I'm assuming, was given free rein to do what he wants. Because, I mean, if the studios had their way, I'm sure they would have wanted another traditional slasher sequel. This kind of reminded me of Exorcist II: The Heretic, where they take an established franchise and established characters and just completely go off on a strange tangent. To me, it's a more jarring sequel than Season of the Witch was, because Season of the Witch was its own entity, whereas this one brings back Laurie Strode, brings back Michael Myers and a few characters from the recent trilogy, and it just does something completely different. You know, there's no there's no teenagers smoking pot and having sex, and Michael Myers is downstairs waiting to kill them. So yeah, I thought it was surprisingly strange, but in kind of a good way. I mean, I'm still undecided of where this would rank amongst my favorite Halloween movies. I mean, the first 3 are still my favorite, but this certainly is for me. It's miles better than the 2 Rob Zombie movies, and it's miles better than Halloween 4. But yeah, so I mean, as a fan of Exorcist II: The Heretic, I kind of embraced the oddness of Halloween Ends, and I kind of glad that I knew some of the facts about the film before I sat down to watch it, because if I sat down to watch this, I think I would have reacted quite negatively if I was expecting a traditional Michael Myers film, which it isn't at all. I think a thumbs up from me for this one. I mean, I didn't love it, but I certainly didn't hate it. And it's quite a Marmite movie. Judging from the reaction on social media, people either love it or hate it, but I'm somewhere in the middle. I quite like it. And it's definitely one I'm going to purchase on DVD. DVD? Is this, 2002? Blu-ray. Yeah. So, there we go. That's my tuppence.
Awesome. Nathan, what were your thoughts on Halloween Ends?
I'm very torn on this one. If I'm judging it based on, say, a standalone movie, I loved it. I thought it was really good, and Stripes agrees. I thought that it was excellent. I love the characters. I love the whole storyline. I just, and like Erik said, this Laurie, I would have preferred to see in the 2018 one. I know it's kind of jarring that she's suddenly different in this one, but I did like, just, I don't know, the nicer Laurie, not really nicer, but more chill, maybe. I don't know what I'm trying to go for.
Happier.
Yeah, she's happier after her daughter died. And I loved the character of Corey. I liked his whole storyline. I was very invested in seeing, where that was going to go. And so as the movie itself goes, I really loved it. I mean, I just did. I'm definitely in that camp. I guess my issues come from this being the third film in a trilogy. It's very jarring, like you guys have said. The difference in Laurie and to me, the difference in Michael was just extremely just noticeable. I mean, we're going from 4 years ago. He basically seems like he takes out half the town. But now he just, I don't know. I mean, he just seems like there's no way the Michael in this movie could have done what he did in Kills. So I guess, yeah, for me, I still enjoyed it as part of this trilogy, but the trilogy itself just feels kind of disjointed to me. It doesn't flow great or anything. I don't know. It just something just doesn't flow correctly about this. It doesn't feel like it was ever meant to be a trilogy, and almost this seems like, 3 separate movies just kind of lumped together, maybe like like say Halloween 1, 2, and 3. I mean, maybe that's what they were doing. But yeah, for me, it's just one of those things where I did enjoy it a lot, and I would definitely rewatch it. But it's just an odd film to be the final ending in the trilogy. Although I will say I did love the final battle. I would have liked for it to be a little bit longer, but I still loved it. I was, waiting to see Laurie versus Michael again because I love Laurie. And I was one of the ones that was always on the camp of Laurie wasn't dead because I'm like, no, I don't believe that she died there. This trilogy, overall, I'd give it thumbs up because, I did enjoy it. It's not perfect. It definitely could have used some improvement in certain areas. So, I can't deny that. But overall, I enjoyed it. It's just, fun to see Michael on the big screen.
Okay. And Justin, if you want to reread your Hysteria Lives review.
Well, I as I mentioned, I rewatched it tonight. And I agree with Nathan. It was fun to see Michael on the big screen. But unfortunately, you see very little of Michael on the big screen. I think, given that I know it's not a raves across the board, but I think watching a second time, I liked it less the second time. I think actually its inconsistencies, its pacing issues, it became much more jarring. Excuse me, the second time. I think I also agree with you guys that this is not the ending of a trilogy. It's not what an ending of a trilogy should be. What should that be? I don't know, but not this. This film would have worked better as a middle of a trilogy. Kills would have worked better to finish the if they retooled Kills and gone out on a wham bam, thank you ma'am, like total mayhem film. I think that would have worked better. Not that I dislike the quieter aspect of this, but the idea, again, agreeing with Nathan, as a standalone movie, this idea of Corey's story is interesting. I love the music. I like the way the film looked. It didn't, but lots of things, I think, as Joshua mentioned, didn't work. It's like, why would Alison fall for Corey's character so quickly? Doesn't make any sense.
Because he's dreamy.
Well, and also the idea that it's all over the place. The whole trilogy is all over the place. They doesn't know if it's Arthur or Martha. Is Michael Myers the boogeyman, or is Michael Myers just a naughty man? What is he? It even in this film, you've got Laurie Strode at the end of the movie going, he's just a man, and I've killed him and put him in a meat grinder or whatever, macerator. Spoiler alert. But then he passes his evil to Corey in a sewer. So is he supernatural? Isn't he? He has to be supernatural, and no mortal man could have gone through what he has in the last 3 movies. Indeed, at the end of the first movie, without having some kind of supernatural element. And if you look back at the original Halloween, which of course we're going to be doing commentary for, the whole point of that movie was, that. John Carpenter and Deborah, what's her last name?
Hill.
Deborah, help me out here. Hill, that's the one, of course. Deborah Hill. How can I forget? Deborah Hill and John Carpenter. The whole idea was about taking the idea of Halloween, the ghouls, the ghouls, the ghosts, the spookiness, the boogeyman. And that was missing for me from these movies. I hated the Rob Zombie movies with a passion. I can't stand them. These are better than them, but again, all the things that are missing from this film and Kills as well. It's Michael Myers is this shark-like creature, this this ghost of the night, of disappearing into light. That was all gone. There was none of that in this movie at all, really. The only one shot that actually even had any inkling of that was when Michael Myers popped up from behind a tree and watched Laurie Strode in front of her car. There's so many contrivances. The whole idea that we were led to believe that the Corey character is going to be thrown off a bridge, land right outside Michael Myers' sewer lair, and be dragged in, and he happens to be dating Laurie Strode's granddaughter. I mean, these are things that just push, they just don't, it's a contrivance far too far for me, especially when you're saying you've got 4 writers. That's just ridiculous. But for me, the biggest problem with this is that it's not a bad movie, but it's not a Halloween movie. And there's something to be said for giving the audience what it wants. There's nothing wrong with that. If I went to see a Jaws movie and the shark didn't turn up until an hour into the movie, I'd be pissed off. If I saw a Star Wars movie and they walked around a planet talking and stroking their chins for 2/3 of the movie, I'd be pissed off. So I can understand why people are annoyed by this movie. And I think you're watching it again, and I do feel that David Gordon Green, it could be argued, has a contempt for his audience, really. If people are paying $10, $12, $15 to go and watch a movie, if you're not giving them what they're seeing in the trailer, what are you doing? And so I think in future people may appreciate these films, but I think they're all over the place, really. This trilogy is not cohesive in any way, shape or form. And I was reading, and I don't know if this is correct, but I was reading an interview with Jamie Lee Curtis where she said that originally it was only going to be the standalone film to start off with, and then director came to her and said, before they released the film, said, we'd like to do a trilogy. So that may explain why it's not so cohesive. Having said that, there's no excuse to have this relatively mild, sometimes boring movie as the wham bam thank you man crescendo of this trilogy. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know why they've done it that way. I'd much rather have seen this kind of sugar rush of Halloween Kills done properly, with a real kind of fight to the death with Laurie and Michael. And also the fact is that Michael Myers, he looks like a geriatric pensioner in this, and to take the character and strap him like some old luggage to the back of a car and drive him out into a macerator. I'm not saying we should have respect for the character, but he is the boogeyman. He is supposed to be this kind of unstoppable, killable force. And they at the end of the movie, it's really just saying he's just some old geezer that has now got his comeuppance, and that doesn't wash for me. I find it kind of in some ways disrespectful to the movie. So when I watched and to its audience as well, and so when I watched it the first time, I was kind of engrossed with the Corrie story, interested where it was going, but watching it again, I thought, actually, this doesn't work. It's not this idea that he's gone from being this kid that's bullied and then supernaturally possessed, and then still goes out on dates with Laurie's granddaughter after killing the doctor and his girlfriend. It's just crazy to me. It doesn't make any sense. And why didn't they check the sewers for Michael Myers? What's he been doing for the last 4 years? I've seen some people say it's gone back to the kind of ridiculousness of like him floating down the river and being looked after by a pirate and his parrot for 5 years. It kind of is doing that, and I don't know. The second time watching it, the more I disliked it. So at least I'm not saying I hated the movie, but I feel that possibly it's only fair to give that other side of the argument, because I don't think I don't know, is David Gordon Green and Danny McBride, are they fans of the films? I don't know. They seem to drop the ball a lot with this trilogy. I mean, even down to something like Kills, where you had Kyle Richards chase in the park, which should have been incredibly suspenseful. It would have been great to have had a chase scene. Slow walking Michael Myers, didn't do any of that. Why not? I don't understand why. Did they not realise? What were they doing? They just didn't do that, and didn't do that in this, and it just didn't give the audience what it deserved, really. And I don't think it really gave Laurie Strode's character or Michael Myers' character the closure that they deserved. So, that's my penny.
That's the gist of it. There's like an hour of a really good movie here, but there's not much of a Halloween movie here at all. So, I mean, I can understand why it's so divisive.
For people who hate the sequels, as they reportedly do, they sure did take a lot from them, didn't they?
It's strange. I don't really understand. Kind of, I'd like to think if the five of us sat down and someone gave us $1 million each, we could come up with a fucking good Halloween movie, and certainly one that made sense. And I just think I don't understand, why it was so inconsistent and why it's so incoherent in a lot of places. It could have, there's all sorts of things they could have done. They could have, said it on Halloween night, and done that. Michael Myers comes back to town. That Halloween erupts into that kind of torch carrying thing from after Frankenstein's monster type thing. And, there's a Halloween party. I mean, all these things have been done before, but it's something more than this, something to go out with a bang, because that finds 10, 15 minutes at the end, fine, but really that's after an hour and 40 minutes, of this kind of introducing a new character has had nothing to do with Halloween at all. It doesn't sit right with me, and I can see why people are pissed. I really can. And I if I was going to predict, I know it's made a lot of money at the box office, but it's going to drop off like a stone. Word of mouth has been so bad for it. Having said that, where do they go next with it? I joked about Halloween, the Ghost of Michael Myers, but I think, I would like to see a film where Michael Myers, you have some kind of go back to the spirit of the original Halloween, where he is a phantom and not this kind of doddery old man that they turned him into.
I think just strip it down to what they did in Halloween, the original. It's just like you said, just a ghostly specter haunting these babysitters. There's nothing more to it, and you got to have that fall atmosphere, which was lacking in this film. You got to have the pumpkins, you got to have the kids trick or treating. None of that was present here, and it's such a simple thing to do. I don't understand why they hire these people who they feel like they're above this material, like they want to make a statement rather than scare people. And, I'd rather be scared. I want to have fun. I don't want to, ruminate on what's going on in culture or in the world today. I just want to watch a dumb Halloween film.
Well, I think it's just very strange, and I think it was I think it was you, Erik, saying about Jamie Lee Curtis saying it's going to piss a lot of people off, and I'm thinking, why do you make a movie to piss people off? You're not making an art film, you're making a Halloween sequel. So don't get above yourself. You shouldn't have a contempt for your audience. It feels contemptuous to me.
It's also like, why would you want to piss off the people who made you what you are now? Like, who gave you all this money? Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. And I know John Carpenter's sitting there just kind of twiddling his moustache, smoking a cigarette and just laughing because he just knows, the money comes in. And I think the one thing that I really enjoyed, the soundtrack was fantastic to this, Dead Kennedys, Boy Harsher, The Cramps, and the Cody Carpenter and John Carpenter soundtrack was fantastic. It's probably the best thing about the movie for me.
I mean, the defense that David Gordon Green and Jamie Lee Curtis have given in interviews and that is, or it's not the defense that they've given, but I've seen people who've loved this film have said, look, there's 11 other Michael Myers films out there to satiate you if you don't dig Halloween Ends, which is true. And I mean, you have to say that they have attempted something slightly different with a slasher film. I know it hasn't delivered what we want from a slasher film, but I don't know. I didn't get the vibe that they're contemptuous towards the genre.
I think there's a way they, like Justin said, they could have shifted this. This could have been the middle portion where they took a tangent and they built up to something going into the third film. Why release it as the third film when when they've done the kind of, it seems like they did the finale in Halloween Kills.
I think that, what I agree with, is that I know that people say, like you were saying, Erik, that you've got so many other movies with Michael Myers. And I think that just the biggest problem is this was supposed to be the last. I mean, we all know it's not going to be the last one, but this is supposed to be the last one. So he should be in it throughout, like as the end of the series.
Yeah, well, in Exorcist 2, The Heretic, there should have been demonic possessions all the way through it and vomiting, and there wasn't. And it's still one of the best films ever made.
Yeah, but that flopped really badly, didn't it? I mean, it was kind of...
It did.
Yeah, so...
It did. Well, it did really well. It made tons of money on its opening weekend and then dropped off sharply when word of mouth got out.
Which is what I think is going to happen with this movie. I mean, I was reading about on Variety or Box Office, and they were sort of saying that it might have some legs over Halloween. But they said already the drop off has been, it's made a lot of money opening. And also, I think given that they dumped it to Peacock, I know they did that with Halloween Kills, but that was in the pandemic. So they obviously, I reckon, Universal Pictures and Blumhouse probably realised that actually this was going to be a problem for them.
Even Jamie Lee Curtis kind of warning us that was going to piss people off was kind of an indicator that she was just prepping people to...
I think a clever filmmaker can still give an audience what they want, but do something different.
Yeah, Exorcist 2, The Heretic.
Well, yeah, but that's not quite what people wanted, was it? I mean, people wanted more.
It's what I wanted.
They wanted more exorcisms. It's just like why they put they shoehorned an exorcism into Legion Exorcist 3 at the end. And there's a lot to be said for not going exactly what the audience wants, but giving them for the closure of a trilogy that's meant to be building up to this massive fight, the big showdown. And really, that you're led to believe that Laurie Strode can outwit Michael Myers and outfight him.
Justin, you wouldn't like it then if Susie came out with a new album of Irish traditional music, if she went off on a complete tangent, or if she did Mongolian throat singing.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for doing stuff that is kind of, and I've used this before, but Nick Cave once said with the cover versions, the best idea is to get inside the song and destroy it from the inside out. So I think there's something to be said for doing something surprising and different. But the fact is that also the trailer, a lot of people saying the trailer missold the movie.
There is. I was watching a 10-minute behind the scenes. It was like a EPK on YouTube before we started recording. And there was no mention of Corey in it at all. And all of the behind the scenes shots showed Michael Myers and Jamie Lee Curtis. So it was completely misrepresenting the film, totally. And apparently there's loads of shots in the trailer that aren't in the actual finished film, which makes me believe that maybe an extended cut will be coming to Blu-ray that might improve it.
Yeah, it's kind of. I think it's a real shame because when I first watched the movie, I was kind of quite engrossed, and we haven't really mentioned the opening scene with Corey where he accidentally kills that kid. Although I'm gonna need to rewatch it again, but it seemed like when there's a flashback when they kind of Michael Myers and Corey had that kind of psychic thing. I saw it. It's almost subliminal, but it almost looked. There was a bit where he looked like he was pushing the kid over the balcony, and I did wonder whether or not he did actually, go through the door and actually push him over the balcony because he's such a little shit. Not that I condone killing children, obviously, but I did wonder if there was that kind of seed in there anyway. But I mean, it may have just because it's over in a flash. But I think I can understand. People. Money's tight now, and also you can see why the Universal and Blumhouse may have been a bit nervous about the movie because they missold it. They thought we can't say this is a Corey story. No one's going to go and watch that. So it's, I'd like to come back to it at some point and rewatch it, but I don't think, my high hopes for this trilogy unfortunately didn't bear out. And I know somebody criticised me when I published a review of Kills or something, and they said, well, why are you so, we just want Michael back on the screen. And I was like, you should be grateful for that. And I'm kind of like, well, all right. But the irony is Michael's not really back on the screen for most of this movie. So what you're left with, and if you've got, and to be honest, the Christine references all clever and blah blah blah, but how many people watching the film at the cinema are even going to get that? Sometimes people can be too clever by half, and I think it's a popcorn movie. These aren't high art. Halloween is a fantastic movie, but John Carpenter was under no allusion to the kind of movie he was making. He was making a film that was originally called The Babysitter Murders, which was a quickie horror movie he tried to do really, really well, and it turned into a classic, but it was not meant to be high art. It wasn't meant to be sort of an art film. And we talk about the lethal simplicity of the slasher movie, and sometimes it needs to be that, and this wasn't really a slasher movie for much of its running time, and this is the granddaddy of slashers. What a way to finish a franchise. It's, it just seems a bit crazy to me.
It's just not the right movie to end on. It's just, even if you concede that the movie is great, it's just not the right movie to end on.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the crux of it. For me, that's the crux of it.
Did you like the credits sequence at least at the start?
I mean, I love the fact, all the flashbacks and the kind of things. But again, as I've seen someone else point out, it only goes to remind you of how much better the original film was than this. And the interesting thing about the original film is, which I'm talking about, is, and it's a kind of a boon and a curse for it, is that it's so simple. There's really very little plot there. It's kind of it's stripped to the bare bones, and it's just suspense after suspense after suspense. And that's why it works. But you could keep on making films like that, but there always needs to be that kind of hook, I kind of guess. And I'm not against the idea.
So I think elevated horror kind of ruined, well, not ruined, but it has informed this Halloween trilogy. They feel too embarrassed to go back to the simplicity of the late 70s, early 80s slasher films. And maybe they don't think there's no audience for it, but I think they're trying to instill a kind of Hereditary, The Witch, that type of vibe into their franchise, and they're not succeeding in my opinion, but I still think the trilogy is quite entertaining personally.
Yeah, I don't know. It's certainly better than Rob Zombie's movies. I'll give them that. So that's one for the box for the Blu-ray jacket. So any other thoughts on Halloween Ends before we sort of cover a little bit of kind of some of the backgrounds?
Oh, one thing I meant to say is that I've watched a few Jamie Lee Curtis interviews leading up to the release of Halloween Ends, and she says that she kept making a point of saying that Laurie has been in therapy, and I think she may mention it in the film, and maybe she doesn't, but that's, I suppose, to explain why she's suddenly this happy person who celebrates Halloween. I mean, it's still a stretch, but I mean, the idea was that Laurie received no therapy after 1978, and that's why for 40 years she was sort of mulling around in the desert or whatever, in the woods, building this giant trap to catch Michael Myers, and then suddenly after 4 years of therapy she's back to the way she was. But I mean, I still like the Laurie we meet at the start of this, because I think it's very close to the 1978 Laurie we meet before she encounters Michael Myers. You know, she's knitting and she's twirling her hair and she seems all shy and coy, so I liked that, even though it's stupid in the context of the trilogy, but I still liked it.
Joshua, what about you? Have any final thoughts?
I just want to know what everyone's ranking would be of these three films, from best to worst.
Okay, for me, probably the order they were released. 2018 is my favourite, then Kills, then Ends.
I think I'm the same. I think so. I mean, it's weird because, like I said, I think 18 is the most forgettable, but it's also technically the best one of them. So it'd probably go, 18... It'd depend on the day. It'd either be Kills, Ends, or Ends, Kills.
Justin?
For me, I'd probably agree, to be honest. I think, Halloween Ends, if it had been a spin-off from this, I would have liked it a lot, I think. But I think probably you're right. I think I think this is probably, I can't forgive the fact that it's just not a kind of film that should close a trilogy like this. I don't think it's worthy to close the franchise, which of course we know it won't do.
Nathan, what about your order?
I would say that just as ranking it as a trilogy, I would agree with you guys. 2018 Kills, then Ends. Even though I think I liked Ends as a movie overall more than Kills. Again, like I just can't get past. I can't talk either. Once I learn to talk, I'll be back. But no, I can't get past the fact that this is like the final one in the trilogy. Like it just, again, like maybe just a risk they took, and like I said, I don't dislike it, but I actually loved it. But like I don't know, I just have such conflicting feelings about this movie.
So does Stripes, by the sound of it.
Yeah.
What about you, Joseph?
I mean, yeah, it's like I said, I don't really have an emotional connection to, Michael Myers and all that stuff. So I probably got a bit of a recency bias. So I would probably go 3, 2, 1.
Well, controversial. Well, what about some kind of? We're going to loads of backgrounds on this because there's. I mean, does anyone want to? Is anything anyone wants to say? I mean, I know one of the things that I mentioned earlier was that Jamie Lee Curtis let out the bag that wasn't originally meant to be a trilogy. So so that kind of explains why it kind of went the way it did, perhaps. And also the other thing, I'm right in thinking that originally Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends were meant to be shot back to back, weren't they? So I wonder if it would have been a more direct continuation from Halloween Kills into Halloween Ends. So like more of the night he came home type thing.
Was it because of the pandemic? Was it that they didn't go ahead with that, or why? Do you know?
It was something. I think it may have been, or it was just logistically it was too much problems. I'm not sure exactly. I mean, the other thing, did you guys notice that Kyle Richards wasn't at the end? It wasn't in the final scenes of Michael being put in the macerator.
Oh no. Yeah,
so apparently she was off shooting Real Housewives of Bel-Air or whatever she's on, because apparently that was all a reshoot, because apparently there were lots of different endings shot, or at least a couple. And I think after some audience screenings, I think the audience was like, it was very anticlimactic, even more so. So originally that wasn't how the movie ended. So all of that last bit with the procession out of town and, it's kind of funny, isn't it? Because in Halloween Kills, it actually feels like the whole of Haddonfield's out, rocking police cars and shouting "Evil dies tonight." And at the end of Halloween Ends, it looks like a couple of people are busted in, a few people from, a couple of busloads of old age pensioners from nearby retirement homes. So there's not that many people there. But Carl Richards wasn't involved, which is a shame. And somebody said they could have at least tried CGI'd her face onto it, considering that, unfortunately, and I think it may have been you, Joshua, or somebody said that it was a shame that her character was given so little to do in this.
Now, the question is, was that Michael Myers that got minced up at the end, or was it a paramedic?
It was probably a paramedic.
Yeah, I think so too.
Can he still astral project into other angsty teenage boys?
Maybe he can.
Yeah, like Jason Goes to Hell.
Or like Justin does in a Saturday Night. No, that's too much. I apologise.
That is a slur. No, I do see spirits on a Saturday night, but usually of the vodka type. So, I mean, I think that going forward, I know Jamie Lee Curtis is kind of out, and I did read that this is Blumhouse has said they're washing the hands of the franchise, or they've not washing the hands exactly, but they've they had a 3-option deal or whatever, but it's returning back to is it Akkad family, isn't it? The rights. So I do wonder if we might see a follow up with the Allison character.
I imagine they'll just reboot the timeline, like they keep doing with Spider-Man and the Hulk and all those type of things. There's no way they can, if they want to put Michael Myers back into the franchise, they have no option but to reboot, surely.
Well, I don't. Again, going back to the ghost of Michael Myers, I don't see why that would be a problem. Actually having him sort of like some teenagers, playing with a Ouija board, and Michael Myers comes back to Haddonfield for one last Halloween night. I know it'd be silly, but at least it'd be more in keeping with Halloween night.
Does anyone else find Allison's scream to be a bit too much?
Her what? Sorry?
Her scream. Allison, every time she screams, she goes, "Ah!"
I also thought it was a bit unfair to her boyfriend who died at the was it Halloween Kills. She didn't have any flashbacks to him at all, did she?
Well, he did cheat on her at the party.
Oh, that's true. So, but would you be put off if you were dancing with someone and then they got up down on the floor and started writhing around on their back?
That's what we all do in the nightclubs over here.
Is it? Well, the trouble is, if I got down like that now, I don't think I'd ever get back up.
Oh dear.
Oh dear, indeed. Well, Joshua, do you have any thoughts about sort of background or anything, or any kind of reviews or kind of anything like that?
I didn't look into the background, so all yours.
Okay. Well, is anyone else wants to jump in? But I've got a few things.
That it was filmed in Savannah, Georgia. Is that anywhere near you, Joseph? You're across the border in Georgia, are you?
It's about 300 or 400 miles away, so about a good 6 to 8 hour drive from here. Yeah.
Yeah. And according to IMDb, it was shot under the title Cave Dweller, which I'm assuming is like one of their pseudonyms like the Friday the 13th series used to use. So they filmed between January and February of this year. And then, as you were saying, Justin, reshoots were done in June. 2 weeks of reshoots. So I'm really interested. Do we know what the alternate ending was, or the original ending was, before they decided to mince Michael Myers?
They said it was much more intimate and quiet.
Okay, so he probably dies of old age or something.
Well, he dies of old age, or she does some Reiki on him and like some joss sticks, and then he falls asleep, and then she smothers him with a pillow.
That's probably why.
Maybe she just offered him some Activia and it's like, chill out, dude. Go take a dump or something.
Yeah, what happens if it's just Michael Myers has just been constipated all this time and that's what's made him so aggressive?
Wow, that's a sequel waiting to happen.
It is.
For like 40 plus years, then no wonder he's a murderer.
Yeah. That sequel just writes itself.
Halloween explodes tonight.
That's all I have, yeah, just apart from the fact that you said that the rights have reverted to the to the Akkad family. And I know Mustafa is no longer with us, but Malik has taken over his role. And Mustafa was never shy of putting out a sequel, no matter how ridiculous the reasons were to resurrect Michael Myers. So I'm hopeful that we'll see some in the future.
Well, given that, I think I did read somewhere that the original movie made something, the original in the trilogy made something like $255 million worldwide, which is a massive amount of money, obviously, on relatively small budgets. I say relatively, I'm not sure what the budget's was, sort of 40 million or something, but it's not like Star Wars or like a kind of some crappy Marvel thing. It's kind of so it's a given that we'll see another Halloween film, certainly, but whether or not they leave it a few years. But I just looked up to see some of the reviews as very short things. So, but a couple of the just very quickly some of the reviews. Just Variety said that the final entry in the H40 trilogy, which they called it, tries to be original, but is neither scary nor fun. AV Club said, despite a great performance by Jamie Lee Curtis, the Michael Myers-Laurie Strode relationship comes to an unsatisfying close. Forbes said, gave a good review and said Halloween Ends delivers Jamie Lee Curtis a worthy send off 44 years in the making. And lastly, on the website Jezebel, it says it takes about 90 minutes for the movie to get where it's going. The final showdown between Laurie and Michael lasts about 10 minutes, and the denouement runs for about another 10. What precedes it is one of the most baffling shaggy dog stories in a horror franchise since Friday the 13th, A New Beginning. The one that doesn't actually feature Jason Voorhees, that franchise's monster. So, I have seen Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning, mentioned in relation to this as well.
I mean, that road flare scene had to have been inspired by Friday the 13th Part 5, at least.
Yeah, very possibly. At least they didn't have Corey standing up and then going boss-eyed, like they did with, was it Ron? Who was the killer? Roy, that was it, Roy, yeah. So, okay, well, let's see. I think, Joseph, it's probably fair to say that Halloween Ends broke the Facebook group.
Yeah, I mean, this went semi-viral. I mean, viral for us at least. In a real short period of time, we had 81 comments across our socials overall, and Pangea Nut, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, has this to say: an ending to a trilogy and Jamie Lee's Laurie. After the widespread terror, panic, and chaos of kills, Halloween Ends goes back to a slower focus on trauma. People who want a comic book style showdown between Laurie and Michael are going to be disappointed, but as we learned at the start of the trilogy, Laurie isn't Michael's sister or obsession. It is Laurie who is morbidly infatuated with the Haddonfield killer. Yet all of Haddonfield is just as traumatized, and Laurie is their boogeyman more so than Michael. Victim blaming, hate, and factions have fermented in Michael's wake. If Corey is an echo of Laurie, this movie is all about Laurie. But then that reduces the Jamie Lee of it all. However, Halloween Ends is as much about the audience letting go of Laurie as it is about Laurie letting go of Michael. And here's some spoilers. Perhaps above all that is the healing of the Haddonfield community, symbolized by the Universal Monsters-esque demolishment of Michael's body. Say goodbye to the characters you know and loved. This is the end of their story. And Dave Felter says, bad in every way, sadly, reminiscent of the crappy late 80s sequels. Wasn't it the point to be unlike those? How in the hell do you spend parts 1 and 2 building up the anxiety and rage to a tantalizing crescendo, only to completely reverse course at the start of part 3 and show Laurie at her happiest and most stable? WTF! Exclamation, exclamation. The tag team aspect might have worked in the middle of a series. I'm looking at you, Friday the 13th Part 5. But Halloween Ends should have been a balls-out beginning-to-end slugfest. We were owed that. This finale is so limp and poorly written and directed. Also, these 3 films may be the least scary or suspenseful horror films ever made. If these people are going to desecrate The Exorcist next, I'm out. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Listen on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and about a billion other podcatchers, both good and bad. We're also on Patreon, and just as Halloween ends, so too it must begin, and that's where we're headed this month with our commentary track for the OG Halloween from 1978. So join us over there to listen to that, but bring your checkbook because we ain't cheap, except for Erik.
Rude.
You can send feedback and those humorous Yahoo greeting birthday cards to the Hysteria Continues at gmail.com.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to go back and watch the original Halloween and do our fan commentary for that. So I hope you tune in for that. So, and talking of Halloween horrors, are you ready, Erik?
I am.
It's my joke of the week. It's so freaking fantastic.
How did they remove the remains of the shape from that grinding machine at the end? They used Michael Pliers. Michael Pliers.
I can't laugh because my throat hurts, but it was funny.
Yeah, that was one of your better ones, Erik.
Yay.
More treat than trick, which is nice. So, okay, well, I guess that brings us to, is any other business? Before we discuss what treats Nathan has for us next time.
Oh no.
I just want you all to know that people are dying to get into the open house. It's like a killer killing real estate agents, and he eats dog food. So come on, what's not to love?
The entire 85 minutes of it, Nathan.
Well, we shall look forward to that. I have it's on Hysteria Lives. I can't remember who reviewed it, whether it was me or someone else. But I shall look forward to that, Nathan. I keep an open mind.
Open mind, open house.
Exactly, yes. Or open butt, as Erik is often known. So, what are we playing out with?
That's the name of my autobiography. Joseph, what are we playing out with?
Oh, well, like you said, the soundtrack to Halloween Ends is amazing. So we're going to play out with Burn It Down by Boy Harsher, which I've never heard before, but that song is fucking awesome. So we're playing out with that.
It can't be a good soundtrack because it has no Toya or Kajagoogoo on it.
Yeah, it's a great soundtrack.
Do you know, you've not heard of Boy Harsher before, Joseph?
No, I'd never heard of them before. I stumbled upon their, I think it's a Bandcamp site after watching the movie, and I was like, wow, I really like this group. So
they've got a song called Pain, which is really good from about 7 or 8 years ago, which is what you normally would associate with listening to Toya, but it's actually a really good song. So, okay, right, we'll play out a Boy Harsher from the Halloween End soundtrack. And we will catch you next time on the Hysteria Continues when we go to Nathan's open house. So thank you for listening, and whether or not you agree or disagree with what we said about Halloween Ends, I hope you have a fantastic Halloween. Or will this go out in time for Halloween, Joseph?
Well before Halloween.
Excellent. We'll have a scary, safe and fun Halloween, and we'll catch you next time. So thank you for listening, and say goodbye to the good people.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Happy Halloween.
Halloween Ends.